The great hall was silent. Thousands of alien beings sat in their seats, their eyes fixed on the small group of humans standing at the center of the chamber. The walls were made of crystal that glowed with soft blue light. Holographic banners floated in the air, each one showing the symbol of a different alien empire. Admiral Park Doyon stood perfectly still. He was a man in his 50s with silver hair and a face that showed nothing. No fear, no worry, no anger, just calm, patient silence. Behind him stood 4 other humans, all wearing the dark blue uniform of Earth's space fleet. The Galactic Council had been meeting on Orvalis, primed for 3,000 years. 12 species had joined together to create laws for war and peace among the stars. Humanity had joined only 60 years ago, when their first ships reached beyond their own solar system. To these ancient empires, humans were like children, young, foolish, dangerous today. They were also criminals. High Speaker Kelmoth of the Velthrani Empire rose from his seat. He was tall, almost 3 meters, with a body covered in hard shell that shined like oil on water. His forearms moved as he spoke, and his voice was like stones grinding together. "I call this tribunal to judge the crimes of Earth," Kelmoth said. 3 months ago, the Velthrani Empire declared honorable war against the human territories in the Helix Corridor. We followed every rule, every tradition. We gathered our fleet at the chosen battlefield and announced our numbers as the Accord's demand. He pressed a button and the dome above them came alive with light. A recording began to play. Ships filled the screen. Beautiful, deadly Velthrani warships arranged in perfect lines, their weapons pointed at empty space. 400 warships, Kelmoth continued. 12,000 warriors. We waited for the humans to meet us in honorable combat. We waited for 3 days. The recording changed. Now it showed Velthrani ships burning, bodies floating in the darkness of space. Escape pods exploding before anyone could reach them, never came to the battlefield. Instead, they attacked like animals in the night. They killed our supply crews while they slept. They boarded our ships and murdered our people without warning. They used fear and terror as weapons. Angry sounds came from the other alien delegates. The Marathi, tall beings with gray skin and black eyes, whispered to each other. The Ixtal, who looked like floating clouds of light, pulsed with red color that showed their anger. "The humans have broken the accords of honorable warfare," Kelmoth said, his voice rising. "They have shown themselves to be without honor, without respect, without civilization. We demand justice." Admiral Doyon did not move. He simply watched and listened. A delegate from the Fenerai Federation stood up. She was covered in white fur with large ears and sharp teeth. "The evidence is clear," she said. "Earth's military attacked without following proper rules. They targeted ships that were not combat vessels. They used methods that no civilized species would use." More voices joined in agreement. One by one, the alien delegates spoke against humanity. They called humans savage, primitive, a mistake that should never have been allowed into galactic society. Lieutenant Yuna, a young woman standing behind the admiral, leaned forward slightly. "Sir," she whispered, "Earth's command has sent a message. Protocol Sunrise is authorized." Admiral Doyon gave the smallest nod. His expression did not change. The accusations continued for another hour. The Velthrani showed more recordings. Ships destroyed. Stations attacked. Warriors killed in ways that the aliens found deeply disturbing. Through all of it, the human delegation remained silent. Finally, the Grand Arbiter, an ancient being made of living stone, raised his hand for silence. "The accused will now speak," he said, his voice like distant thunder. "Admiral Park Doyon of Earth, what do you say to these charges?" Every eye in the chamber turned to the silver-haired human. Admiral Doyon looked around the room slowly. He met the gaze of each alien delegate one by one. The Velthrani, the Marathi, the Fenari. All of them. They expected him to beg, to apologize, to make excuses for his species. Instead, he smiled. It was not a warm smile. It was the smile of someone who knows something that others do not. The smile of a hunter who has already won. Grand Arbiter Admiral Doyon said, his voice calm and clear. Honored delegates of the Galactic Council, I have listened carefully to every accusation. I have watched every piece of evidence. And I must say, I am somewhat confused. Kelmoth made a sound of anger. Confused? Your people murdered thousands of our warriors. Yes, Admiral Doyon agreed. And I am very sorry for your loss. War is terrible. But what confuses me is this. You say we broke the rules. Yet I have read the Accords of Honorable Warfare many times. All 3,000 pages. And I cannot find a single rule that we actually violated. Shocked silence filled the chamber. You lie, Kelmoth shouted. You attacked without honor. You, Admiral Doyon, raised his hand politely. If the Council will permit, I would like to show you something. Something that I think will help everyone understand what really happened at Helix 7. And perhaps it will help you understand humanity a little better. He reached into his pocket and pulled out a small device. This contains the full record of our military planning, our tactical decisions, and the legal basis for every action we took. I think the Council will find it very educational. He looked directly at Kelmoth, and his smile grew just a little bit wider. You see, High Speaker, your empire is very old. Your ways of war are very old. You wrote rules 3,000 years ago, and you thought those rules covered everything. But you made one small mistake. Admiral Doyon pressed the device, and new images appeared on the dome above. You never imagined species like us. And now, if you will give me a few minutes of your time, I will explain exactly why that was such a terrible error. 3 months before the tribunal, Captain Ko Minho was eating noodles in his small room on Selene Station. The military base sat on Earth's moon, hidden inside a crater where no light could reach. It was a place for secrets. A place for planning things that no one else should know. His communicator beeped. A message appeared on the screen. Report to Command Room 7. Immediately, Minho put down his chopsticks and sighed. He was 29 years old, with messy black hair and tired eyes. He had joined the space fleet because he liked solving problems. He liked looking at situations that seemed impossible and finding ways to win anyway. His commanders called him creative. His enemies called him dangerous. He walked through the gray metal hallways until he reached a door marked with red warning lights. Inside, a long table filled the room. Several high-ranking officers sat around it, their faces serious. At the head of the table stood Commander Beek Somi, a woman with sharp eyes and silver streaks in her black hair. Captain Ko, she said. Thank you for coming. Please, sit. Minho took a seat and looked around. He recognized some faces. Admiral Park Doyon sat in the corner, watching silently. Whatever this meeting was about, it was important. I will be direct, Commander Beek said. 6 hours ago, the Velthrani Empire declared war on Earth. They claim we have illegally settled in the Helix Corridor, which they say belongs to them. They have demanded that we surrender 3 colony worlds. Minho felt his stomach tighten. 3 colony worlds meant 2 million people, families, children. According to galactic law, Commander Beek continued, the Velthrani have chosen to resolve this through what they call honor war. Both sides will gather their fleets at a chosen location. They will announce their ship numbers and weapon types. Then they will fight. The winner takes the territory. She pressed a button, and a holographic map appeared above the table. Red dots showed Velthrani ships. Blue dots showed human ships. There were so many more red dots. Velthrani are sending 400 warships to the battlefield. We have 100. Their ships are larger, faster, and carry more weapons. Their warriors have been fighting wars for 2,000 years. Commander Beek paused. If we fight by their rules, we will lose. The room was silent. So we do not fight by their rules, Minho said. Everyone turned to look at him. Commander Beek raised an eyebrow. Explain. Minho stood up and walked to the holographic map. Permission to speak freely? Granted. The Accords of Honorable Warfare were written 3,000 years ago by species who think very differently from us. The Velthrani are a hive mind. They share thoughts with each other. To them, lying is almost impossible. Hiding is shameful. They fight wars the same way they do everything else. Openly, directly, honestly. He zoomed in on the map. showing the asteroid field where the battle was supposed to happen. They expect us to show up, announce our ships, and fight face to face. That is how every war in galactic history has been fought. It is the only way they know, but not the only way humans know, Commander Beak said slowly. Minho nodded. I spent last night reading the entire Accords document. All 3,000 pages? Do you know what I found? Nothing. Nothing that says we have to show up at their chosen battlefield. Nothing that says we have to announce ourselves before attacking. Nothing that forbids attacking supply ships, or night raids, or psychological warfare. Admiral Doyon spoke for the first time. His voice was quiet but carried weight. You are saying the rules have holes. No, Sir, Minho replied. I am saying the rules were written by species who never imagined someone like us. They did not include rules against ambush because no species in the galaxy uses ambush. They did not include rules against psychological warfare because most species cannot even understand the concept. Fear, deception, patience, these are human tools. And the Accords say nothing about them. The officers looked at each other. Some seemed excited. Others seemed worried. What you were suggesting, one officer said, would make us look like monsters to the rest of the galaxy. Perhaps Minho agreed, but we would be alive monsters. Our colonies would be safe. Our people would survive. He looked around the room. The Velthrani want to play a game with rules they created. I say we do not play their game at all. We fight our way. The human way. Commander Beak crossed her arms. Tell us exactly what you have in mind. Minho smiled. Over the next hour, he explained his plan. They would hide their fleet near a pulsar star, where the radiation would hide their ship signals. They would wait while the Velthrani grew frustrated and confused. Then they would send small teams to attack supply ships, board enemy vessels at night, and spread fear through the enemy fleet. The Velthrani share a hive mind, Minho explained. That means when one of them feels fear, they all feel it. We will not just kill their warriors. We will break their spirit. By the time our main fleet attacks, they will already be defeated in their hearts. When he finished, the room was silent again. Admiral Doyon stood. He walked to Minho and looked into his eyes for a long moment. Then he nodded. Do it, the Admiral said. But understand this, Captain. If this works, we will have changed how the galaxy sees humanity forever. There will be no going back. Minho straightened his spine. I understand, sir. That night, Minho stood before the crews who would carry out his plan. They were young men and women from Earth, from Mars, from the colony worlds that the Velthrani wanted to take. They looked at him with trust in their eyes. The Velthrani think they know what war is, Minho told them. They think it is ships and weapons and numbers. They are wrong. War is will. War is fear. War is making your enemy doubt everything they believe. Paused and let his words sink in. We are going to teach them why our ancestors were afraid of the dark. Because the dark is where humans hunt best. The Velthrani fleet arrived at the asteroid field near Helix 7, exactly on schedule. 400 warships moved through space in perfect formation, their hulls shining under the distant starlight. Each ship knew its position. Each warrior knew his duty. This was how the Velthrani had fought for 2,000 years. This was how they always won. High Commander Valethus stood on the bridge of his flagship, watching the empty space ahead. The humans would come. They had to come. The Accords demanded it. Begin the announcement, Valethus ordered. His communications officer activated the broadcast system. The message went out in all directions, transmitted on every frequency that humans were known to use. Attention, Earth Fleet. This is High Commander Valethus of the Velthrani Empire. We have arrived at the designated battlefield with 400 warships. We carry the following weapons. Plasma cannons, Mark 7. Missile systems, Mark 12. Boarding craft, 300 units. We await your response according to the Accords of Honorable Warfare. They waited. Nothing came back. For the first day, Valethus was not worried. Perhaps the humans were slow. Perhaps their ships needed more time to travel. He ordered his fleet to maintain position and rest. On the second day, he grew annoyed. The humans were being rude, disrespectful. He sent more messages, demanding that they respond. Silence. On the third day, something strange happened. A supply ship traveling from Velthrani space stopped sending signals. Search parties found it drifting near an asteroid, completely dark. When they boarded it, they found the crew dead. All of them. There were no wounds from weapons. No signs of battle. The Velthrani warriors had simply stopped breathing. The bodies had been arranged in neat rows. Their arms crossed over their chests. On the walls, someone had painted a symbol in red, a human hand. Vaelthus felt something he had not felt in many years. He felt the beginning of fear. Through the hive mind, he knew that every warrior in his fleet felt it too. Find them, he ordered. Search every asteroid, every shadow. Find the humans and destroy them. But the humans did not want to be found. Lieutenant Jiho crouched in the darkness of a maintenance tunnel on a Velthrani cruiser. He was a small man with quick hands and quiet feet. Behind him were 5 other soldiers, all wearing black suits that made them invisible to Velthrani sensors. They had boarded the ship 6 hours ago. During the Velthrani rest cycle. Now most of the crew was sleeping, their minds connected in the shared dreams of the hive. Team 2, report, Jiho whispered into his communicator. In position, came the reply. Engineering section is clear. Team 3, ready. Life support control is accessible. Jiho checked his watch. In 60 seconds, the lights on this ship would go out. The air would grow thin, and the Velthrani would learn what it meant to be hunted. Execute. Across the Velthrani fleet, chaos erupted. On 7 different ships, human teams struck at the same moment. Lights flickered and died. Alarms screamed. Warriors woke from their connected sleep to find darkness and terror surrounding them. On the flagship, Vaelthus received report after report. Ships attacked, crews killed, and always. The hand symbol painted in red, but the worst part was the sound. Incenari sat in a small shuttle, hidden behind a chunk of rock, her fingers dancing across a control panel. She was young, only 24. But she was the best psychological operations specialist in the Earth. Fleet. Broadcasting now, she said to herself. The sound that filled Velthrani communication channels was unlike anything they had heard before. Deep drums that beat like a giant heart. Voices screaming in a language they could not understand. Music that was not music, but something older. Something that spoke to the deepest fears that all living creatures share. The Velthrani had no word for this sound. Humans called it heavy metal. Through the hive mind, the fear spread like poison in water. Warriors who had never known doubt began to question. Commanders who had won 100 battles found their hands shaking, and still, the human fleet did not show itself. On the 5th day, Vaelthus made a decision. He ordered his fleet to leave the battlefield and return home. The accords said nothing about retreating. Perhaps he thought they could return with more ships, more warriors. Perhaps they could find a way to fight enemies who refused to be seen. He never got the chance, Captain. Ko Minho stood on the bridge of his ship watching his screens. The Velthrani fleet was moving. They were bunched together, tired and frightened, their formation loose and careless. All ships, Minho said calmly. Prepare to attack. The human fleet had been hiding in the radiation shadow of a pulsar, completely invisible to Velthrani's sensors. 100 ships, their weapons fully charged, their crews eager for battle. Sir, his navigation officer said, we are in position behind the enemy fleet. They do not see us, Minho nodded. He looked at the time display on his screen. It was 0300 station time. The hour when Velthrani crews were at their lowest energy. The hour of deep night. No announcement, Minho ordered. No warnings. Just fire. 100 human ships opened fire at the same moment. Plasma bolts and missiles streaked through space, tearing into Velthrani ships before they could raise shields. Explosions bloomed like flowers of light. The Velthrani tried to fight back. They tried to form defensive lines, to organize their warriors to respond to this attack that came from nowhere. But they were tired. They were scared. And they were facing an enemy who did not fight fair. The battle lasted for hours. When it ended, 280 Velthrani ships drifted dead in space. The survivors fled in all directions, their hive mind filled with nothing but screaming terror. Human losses. 12 ships on his bridge. Captain Minho watched the Velthrani remnants run away. He felt no joy, only the grim satisfaction of a job completed. "Send a message to Admiral Doyen," he said quietly. "Tell him the Helix corridor is secure. Our people are safe." He paused and added, "And tell him the galaxy has just learned something new about humanity." The holographic display above the council chamber showed images that made the alien delegates uncomfortable. Not images of battle, not images of destroyed ships. These were images of Earth. Admiral Park Doyon walked slowly around the center of the room, his hands clasped behind his back. His voice was calm, almost gentle, like a teacher explaining something to young students. "Before I address the charges against humanity," he said, "I think the Council needs to understand something important. You need to understand what kind of creatures we are, where we come from, how we learn to survive." He pointed at the display. It showed an ancient forest, dark and filled with shadows. 200,000 years ago, humans lived in places like this. We were not the strongest animals. We had no claws, no fangs, no armor. The creatures around us were faster, bigger, and deadlier. By every measure, we should have died. We should have become food for the real predators. The image changed. It showed early humans, thin and fragile, crouching around a small fire in the darkness.
How?
But we survived. Do you know how? Admiral Doyon looked at the Velthrani delegation. "We learned to think. We learned to plan. We learned that the darkness, which other creatures feared, could be our greatest weapon." He let those words hang in the air for a moment. "Now let us talk about the Accords of Honorable Warfare. High Speaker Kelmoth has accused us of breaking these rules. I will address each accusation one by one." Kelmoth crossed his forearms. "This should be entertaining." Admiral Doyon smiled politely. Article 7 of the Accords states that combat must occur at a designated location agreed upon by both parties. The Velthrani chose the Helix 7 asteroid field. They announced this choice. But here's the problem. We never agreed. You did not refuse. Kelmoth shouted. "We did not respond at all," the Admiral replied calmly. "The Accords require agreement from both sides. Silence is not agreement. You assumed we would come because every other species has always come. That was your assumption, not our promise." The Grand Arbiter leaned forward. "This interpretation is technically correct." Admiral Doyen nodded and continued. "Article 12 requires that all weapons be declared before battle. The Velthrani shared their weapon types as tradition demands. We used plasma cannons, missiles, and standard boarding weapons. All of these are registered with the Galactic Council. Nothing we used was secret or forbidden. You did not declare them before the battle," Kelmoth insisted. "Because there was no formal battle," Admiral Doyen replied. "The Accords only require declaration when both sides have agreed to the battlefield location. Since we never agreed, the declaration requirement does not apply," were muttering from the alien delegates. Some of them were beginning to look less angry and more worried. Article 23 says that non-combatants must not be targeted. The Velthrani claim we attacked their supply ships, which they call non-combat vessels. Admiral Doyen brought up a new display. "Here are the registration records for those supply ships. Every single one was crewed by active military personnel. Every single one carried weapons and ammunition for the war fleet. Under any reasonable definition, these were military targets." The Fenari delegate raised her hand. "What about the psychological attacks? The sounds you broadcast? The symbols you painted?" Admiral Doyen turned to face her. "I have read the Accords carefully. All 3,000 pages, there is no article that mentions psychological warfare. There is no rule against causing fear. There is no prohibition on attacking during rest cycles or using darkness as cover, because no civilized species would do such things. Kelmoth roared. "These methods are the tactics of animals." The chamber fell silent. Admiral Doyon did not raise his voice. He did not show anger. He simply walked toward Kelmouth until he was standing directly in front of the tall alien. "You are right," the Admiral said quietly. "These are the tactics of animals. The most successful animal your galaxy has ever..." Sini turned back to address the full council. "Accords of honorable warfare were written 3,000 years ago by species who evolved very differently from humans. Your ancestors were pack hunters who worked together openly. Your ancestors were hive minds who shared every thought. You developed war as a kind of ritual, a formal contest between equal opponents." He paused, letting his words reach every corner of the room. "Humans evolved differently. On our world, we were never the strongest. We were never the fastest. We survived by being the smartest. We learned that a small creature can defeat a large one if it chooses the right moment, the right place, the right method. We learned that fear can stop an enemy before a single weapon is fired." Admiral Doyon walked back to the center of the room. "You asked us to follow rules that were written for species like yourselves. Rules that assume everyone thinks the same way, fights the same way, values the same things. But we are not like you. We never have been." He looked at each delegate in turn. "The Velthrani brought 400 ships to destroy 3 of our colony worlds. 2 million human lives were in danger. Families, children, people who had done nothing wrong except live on planets that someone else wanted." His voice hardened just slightly. "Did you really think we would let them die just to follow your ideas of honor?" Kelmoth stepped forward, his shell clicking with anger. "You fought without honor. You used tricks and deception. You are cowards." Admiral Doyen met his gaze without flinching. "We fought to protect our people. We used every tool our evolution gave us. And we won." He let those words sink in. "You may call it cowardice. We call it survival. And I promise you this, as long as humanity exists, we will always choose survival." The Grand Arbiter raised his stone hand for silence. "The Council will now discuss the charges," he announced. "Admiral Doyon, do you have anything else to say?" Admiral Doyon nodded slowly. "Only this," he said. "You wrote rules for a universe you understood. But the universe is bigger than your understanding. And now it contains us." He smiled that cold, knowing smile again. "I suggest you remember that." The council chamber was quiet for a long time after Admiral Doyen finished speaking. The alien delegates looked at each other, their expressions showing confusion, fear, and something else. Something that might have been respect. The Grand Arbiter closed his stone eyes. Deep inside his ancient body, thoughts moved slowly, carefully weighing every word that had been spoken. When he opened his eyes again, his voice filled the chamber like distant thunder. "The Council has considered the evidence," he said. "The charges against Earth are as follows. Violation of Article 7 regarding battlefield location. The defense has shown that no agreement was made. This charge is dismissed." Kelmoth made a sound of protest, but the Arbiter continued. "Violation of Article 12 regarding weapon declaration. The defense has shown that the requirement did not apply under the circumstances. This charge is dismissed. Violation of Article 23 regarding non-combatant targets. The defense has shown that all targets were legitimate military vessels. This charge is dismissed." The Velthrani delegation was standing now, their shells clicking with anger. But the Arbiter was not finished. "As for the methods used by Earth forces, the Council finds no articles in the Accords that forbid psychological warfare, night attacks, or the use of fear as a tactical weapon. The absence of such rules is not Earth's fault. It is a gap in the Accords themselves." He turned his ancient eyes toward Admiral Doyen. "All charges against Earth are dismissed. This tribunal is concluded." For a moment, nothing happened. Then the Velthrani High Speaker Kelmouth let out a roar of pure rage. He swept his forearms through the air, knocking over chairs and displays. "This is not over," he shouted. "You think you have one, humans? You think your tricks will protect you forever? The Velthrani Empire will remember this insult. We will return, and next time..." "Next time what?" Admiral Doyon interrupted calmly. Next time you will know what you are facing. Next time you will understand that humans do not fight by your rules. Next time, you will bring more ships, more warriors, more weapons, and it will not matter. He walked toward Kelmoth, his steps slow and measured. Because we will adapt. We will change. We will find new ways to win that you cannot imagine. That is what humans do. That is what we have always done. He stopped just a few feet from the towering alien. You have been fighting wars for 2,000 years. You are very good at the kind of war you understand. But humanity has been fighting for 200,000 years. We have fought animals that wanted to eat us. We have fought each other in every way imaginable. We have learned lessons written in blood and fire and darkness. Admiral Doyen's voice dropped lower, and somehow that made it more frightening. So please, High Speaker, threaten us again. Bring your fleets to our borders. Try to take what is ours. He smiled, and there was nothing warm in that smile. We will be waiting, and we will teach you things about war that your species never dreamed possible. The Velthrani delegation stormed out of the chamber, their anger echoing off the crystal walls. Other alien delegates watched them go, then turned to look at the humans with new eyes. The Marathi ambassador approached Admiral Doyon. Your species is very frightening, she said quietly. Only to our enemies, Doyen replied. I wonder, she said, if you'd be willing to share some of your tactical wisdom with other species, for a fair price, of course. Admiral Doyon raised an eyebrow. I think that could be arranged. It's far away. On Earth's moon-based Selene station, Captain Ko Minho watched the tribunal broadcast on a screen in his quarters. When the charges were dismissed, he did not cheer. He did not smile. He simply nodded once and turned off the display. Commander Beek Somi found him standing at a window, looking out at the stars. We won, she said. We survived, Minho corrected. That is not the same thing. The galaxy is watching us now. After today, everything changes. Minho nodded. 17 species have already contacted Earth requesting military training exchanges. For others have quietly withdrawn their territorial claims near our borders. They are afraid of us now. Is that bad? Somi asked. It depends on what we do next. Minho turned to face her. Fear can make allies, but it can also make enemies. If we use our reputation wisely, we can build something lasting. If we abuse it, we will find ourselves alone against the entire galaxy. Somi stood beside him at the window. What would you recommend? We should teach them, Minho said slowly. Not everything, but enough. Enough to show that we can be partners, not just threats. Enough to build trust. He paused. But we should also make sure they never forget what we are capable of. Fear and respect must work together. Back on Orvalus Prime, Lieutenant Yuna walked beside Admiral Doyen as they left the council chamber. Alien delegates stepped aside to let them pass, their eyes filled with complex emotions. Sir Yuna said quietly, Do you think they will ever accept us? Really accept us as equals? Admiral Doyen considered the question. Perhaps not equals, he said finally. We are too different for that. But they will respect us. And more importantly, they will understand that humanity cannot be conquered, cannot be bullied, cannot be threatened into submission. They reached the dock where their ship waited. Doyen paused at the entrance and looked back at the great crystal station. For 3,000 years, these species have played at war. They made rules and rituals and pretended that violence could be civilized. He shook his head slowly. We have shown them the truth. War is not a game. It never was. Yuna nodded. What happens now, sir? Now. Admiral Doyen stepped onto the ship. Now the galaxy learns to live with wolves among the sheep. Some will try to hunt us. They will fail. Some will try to join us. We will welcome them. And some will simply watch and wait, hoping we never turn our eyes toward them. The ship's engines hummed to life. Humanity has announced itself to the universe, Doyen said quietly, and the universe will never be the same. As the ship lifted away from Orvalus Prime, Yuna looked out at the endless stars. Somewhere out there, 2 million humans on 3 colony worlds were safe tonight because of what they had done. She smiled. It was worth it.